Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Royal Instinct. Today we are watching a video by Valuetainment, Pat Bet, was it Patrick Bet David. And he is talking about fast fashion. Fast fashion is basically retail stores who are producing fashion items, clothing items, online stores such as Fashion Nova. What's the other one? I don't know. I don't really keep up with women's fashion, but Fashion Nova and all that shit. Um, and retailers such as Zara, H&M, and whatever. These companies produce cheap fashion. They produce fast fashion, direct to consumer, at a affordable price, and it is causing a big impact on global in terms of global waste. It's contributing towards climate change, and it is not good for the environment. Okay, but you have to realize is that these big companies, they want you, to cut down on your emissions in terms of you driving your cars. They'd rather you drive electronic cars, so it cuts down on emissions. But when it comes to stop producing goods and services that contribute to climate change, because it impacts their bottom line, because it impacts their profit margins, that is not considered in the fight against climate change. Okay, but let's get into this. Let's see what Patrick Bet David has to say.
If I was to inspect your closet today, how many pieces would I see of H&M, Zara, or Fashion Nova, called fast fashion, right? Would I find any? How many? And by the way, did you know Americans every year, how many pounds of clothing we throw away every year? Nearly 82 pounds. And according to the True Cost, a documentary, the world consumes around 80 billion new pieces of clothing every year, 400% more than the consumption of 20 years ago. You mean
So we are consuming more than ever before, and it is negatively impacting the world. And the solution isn't for them to stop producing so many clothes, because in true essence we don't need that many clothes. Okay, like especially guys, like we can get away with literally wearing the same thing over and over again. It's more a woman thing, right? So if you really believe in having a good impact on the world, then stop consuming so many clothes. And the thing is, like these fast fashion companies, they don't even produce good clothes. Like these clothes don't even last. They're cheaply made so that they can quickly break, and then you have to replace it the following season. Okay, that's not how things were made, 30, 40 years ago. Like they were made, you buy them and they last for about 10, 15 years, these things, right? I literally I have a few hoodies that I bought in the early 2000s that are still great. Okay, like I mean, you can tell they're a bit, you're worn, so I just wear them, like, to jog or to go to the gym in. But the actual material is still good quality, right? But now going forward, like that's not good for company profit margins, so they make these goods as tacky as possible, so they break as quickly, so you have to go out and replace it. And it's not good for the environment. Okay, and the thing is, the reason why big companies won't stop doing anything about it is because it impacts, as I said earlier, their profit margins. And that is important, because the the profit goes to these corporations, but the cost goes to you as the consumer. Okay, these big companies, the elites, want to extract as much money out of your pocket, so they'll sell you goods because they own the big companies, they own shares in the big companies, and they want you to give them the profit. Okay, but when it comes to costs, such as global warming costs, energy crisis costs, the cost is passed on to the everyday man, the everyday woman, the everyday family, and you get punished for these higher costs and the adverse effects it has on the environment. To protect yourself going forward, you have to establish a kingdom for yourself. Okay, and the reason why you need a kingdom is because so you can write your own rules, so you'll be able to protect yourself from any changes that these elites want, because they might turn around and say, look, like we're increasing taxes on you, we're doing this to you because there's a negative impact on the environment. So you must protect yourself. Here on Royal Instinct, what I'm doing here, I'm looking for 100 people who want to take on the challenge of becoming a king, rising to the top, establishing a kingdom, and be seen as somebody who can become a leader, be seen as somebody who can lead the world to a more prosperous times, to take over from the current leaders that we have, and form a new, more positive leadership for humanity, so we can take humans into a future where they can prosper and live. Because currently AI is upon us, AI will displace most of humanity, and AI will make most of the human labor force redundant. And then there will be no need for these people. They'll be logged into the metaverse. They'll be spending all the time in the metaverse, not reproducing, not meeting real people in the real world, and they will fizzle out of existence. They will be left to rot and not reproduce.
400% bigger? Why? Who's selling us this? Are we making the right decisions here? Let me give you another one here that's crazy. Of the 100 billion garments produced annually, 92 million tons ended up in landfills. I mean, there's a lot of people that talk about climate change, but there's a big difference with pollution against climate change. Climate change, we have to believe what scientists are telling us. Pollution is measurable. You can see these numbers and say, this is actually happening. Just online returns in the US created 16 million tons of CO2 emissions.
See what I mean? And these emissions, right? The companies aren't feeling the cost of this. Okay, it will be passed down to consumers, and it will be passed down to consumers via some form of tax. They will track your vehicle consumption of CO2 emissions. And what will happen is, for big businesses, that there'll be some sort of workaround where because it will impact their business, they will be exempt from these future emissions taxes.
In 2020, the fashion industry is responsible for 20% of global wastewater.
I mean, that's a fifth of global wastewater is because of fast fashion. It's because of these big retailers. But these big retailers will get away with the impact that they have on global climate change, on the environment. But I mean, here in England, here in London, that they stopped diesel cars from a certain age being allowed to be driven around London, because they were saying, oh yeah, the amount of pollution that those cars give out is too much for the environment. But that cost was passed down to everyday people living in London and other parts of England as well, like big cities. And these big corporations, and I believe the system is that you drive in a region number plate, and if your car meets the requirement, then you can go through. If it doesn't, then you can't go through, and you have to pay a tax on it. You have to pay a penalty. However, you can apply for some sort of exemption, and I'm sure these big corporations didn't have to change their vehicles straight away, and that they got some sort of exemption to be allowed to drive their cars around London.
This next one's going to blow you away. Ready? Fast fashion alone generated more CO2 than aviation and shipping combined. Crazy. And again, for those of you that are worried about the climate and what we're doing to the world, watch this here. Synthetic fibers and garments can take hundreds of years to decompose, releasing harmful chemicals and greenhouse gases, according to United Nations Environmental Program. So look, I mean, we're not sitting here saying walk around naked tomorrow. It's not what I'm telling you. I'm not telling you don't go shopping. All I'm telling you is maybe we got more stuff in our clothes today than 20 years ago. Maybe that's a problem we got to address. And maybe that's going to cause us to have more savings in the bank. We're going to talk about all that stuff today. If you get value.
Yeah, and these big corporations don't want you to save. These big corporations don't want money in your pocket. They want to take that money out of your pocket. And you have to really think, in the world where AI is upon us, where most people will be displaced because of AI, what impact will that have on people's savings? Will you be able to afford to live? The solution will be The solution that the governments will provide is universal basic income. However, in return to receive the universal basic income, you will not be allowed to own property. You will not be allowed to, have an inheritance. Everything that you own, everything that you possess, everything that is of value, any resources that you have that you might inherit, will be given to the government or will be confiscated upon your death, to the treasury, to the government. Because ultimately these big corporations, these big governments, they're in cahoots with each other. They're in a, they're working together via the World Economic Forum to, displace most of humanity, and pocket the resources, within their into their pockets, into their hands. Okay, that's what business is. I give you this product that you want. In exchange, you give me money. We have profits that we can then use, to grow our wealth, to grow our territory, to expand our kingdoms. This is why I want you to become a king. This is why I want you to build your kingdom, because there's a lot of evil going on in the world, and there's not going to be no uprising from people. There's not going to be any outrage. That you might get the odd march or protest, but that will quickly be dispelled, because who can protest 24/7, right? Like you do it for a day or two, and then you have to return to fucking work after. But then there won't be no jobs anymore, and then you might say, right, well then I'll protest 24/7. Well then you won't be allowed to go out, right? But they'll say, oh, you can go into the metaverse, and you can protest in the metaverse, and with people. And what they do is they create like a chat room, like a protest chat room, where you have everybody who feels very strongly about this this certain topic, that the climate change, for example, the environment. And it'll be like Twitter, basically. You just have a random bunch of people just screaming and shouting at each other, all contained within an app, and you feel like you're actually venting, and things are happening in the world, but nobody really cares. The world moves on. Okay. Yeah, but you think fucking elites sit around going, oh, let's have a look what's trending on Twitter? They open the app, if they do, and they laugh at what these normal humans are talking about, and then they close the app, and then they go back to fucking their fine high end dining. Okay, they really don't give a shit about you. They want you to suffer. They want you to be poor. They want to extract all resources out of your pocket. And the sooner you realize what is happening to you, the quicker you can start making changes to protect yourself, to ensure that you have a great future ahead, because the current future for most of humanity is pretty bleak.
Out of this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Look, I mean, obviously, if you're watching some of this data, you're like, Pat, this is absolutely insane. Here's another one for you. $500 billion is lost each year due to underwearing and failure to recycle clothes. Globally, only 12% of clothing material is recycled, contributing to significant financial environmental losses. Now watch, all these stats, again, gives you a crazy reaction, right? We haven't talked about labor exploitation, not global impact, not influence on purchasing behavior and clothing use, and last but not least, a couple feedback on what you can do about it yourself to be conscious about what's going on today. So labor exploitation. Now, obviously, we can look at this and it's never a pretty sight. An estimated 170 million children are engaged in child labor, with many working in garment industry. This is
I mean, if you ask most people are good, and they will be outraged at it, right? But we all turn a blind eye to it, right? We all want to look good, we want to feel good, we want to feel wealthy. So when a child gets exploited in a third world country, we look at it a way as, oh well, it's actually quite beneficial for them to be making a little bit of money, because otherwise they'll be living in total fucking poverty. Okay. And people pick and choose what they get outraged about, right? Like if it affects them, like their iPhones, the impact on the environment, for mining coalburn, which is used to make iPhones, from Africa. Like there's children mining this shit, these minerals from Africa. No one gives a fuck then, right? But when things are happening, in a first world country, and something even smells of racism, people are in uproar. But like if an African child is exploited in child labor, nobody bats an eyelid. Okay, so people really have their priorities wrong. People don't know what's going on, and the reason they don't know what's going on is because they're blinded by the media, because they get outraged by what is shown to them via the media. And once you are plugged into the metaverse, once you are living in virtual reality, then you will only be seen, be shown things, um, that will outrage you in a contained way, and then you go back to playing your fucking video games. Okay, it is a truly dystopian future that we're headed towards, and if you want to ensure that the world is protected, and you realize how fucked up things are, you must become the leader that the world needs. You must become the leader that you needed. And you must start creating content. You must get your ideas and message out there and displace the current leaders that we have.
International labor organizations. According to ecofriendlyhabits.com, 60% of those who labor in the global fashion industry are children under the age of 18, making child labor one of the major fast fashion problems. Another study from the U.S. Department of Labor in 2018 found evidence of forced and child labor in the fashion industry in Argentina, Bangladesh, Brazil, China, India, Indonesia, Philippines, Turkey, Vietnam, and others. And even in 2013, an 8-floor factory collapsed that housed several garment factories in Bangladesh, killing 1,134 workers and injuring more than 2,500. So if you're watching this, St. Pat, so what is your, of course.
I mean, that is wild, man. Let's just go back and have a look at that. Hang on. Death toll from Bangladesh worst industrial accident has passed 1,000 people. The authorities say about 2,500 people were injured to the accident, and 2,437 people were rescued. I mean, that is wild. On Friday morning, officials said the total of 1,021 bodies have been recovered from the debris of the fallen factory building, and almost 650 have so far been identified and handed over to families. And a lot of these are children. Okay, and just so you can wear your pretty little skirt, just so you can wear your nice little jumper, for $12 or $13 or whatever the fuck it is. These people are suffering in inhumane conditions, but the news doesn't report it because it impacts business. Okay, it doesn't. It would create outrage, but you are designed to be a consumer. You are designed by the system, by these big corporations, by the media to endlessly consume, for you to empty your pockets of your money, of your resources, for you to not save, for you to not own anything, and live in a false reality, in essence. Okay, like all these bad things are happening in the world, and you are outraged about issues that are pretty small in essence. Like people are screaming about LGBTQ rights. Okay, like really and truly, this is one of the safest times for gay and trans people in the world. Okay, but it's such a major issue all the fucking time, right, on Twitter, that you really have to ask yourself, is like, well, what's going on? What about children dying, in inhumane working conditions? What about child labor? And then people look at you like fucking crazy. It's like, no, we must give puberty blockers to 1% of trans people. Like literally, trans people are usually about 1% of the population. Okay, that are identified as trans. But if you look at the world today, it looks like it's like everyone. It's something that affects like 50% of people, but it doesn't. Okay, it's a crazy time that we live in. It's a wild time that we live in. You really have to be awake. You have to open your eyes to see what is happening. More and more evil is happening in the world, and for you must become the leader that the world needs. You must rise up and take the reins. And the way we do it here on Raw Instinct is we create content, we rise to the top, we become leaders, we become kings, we build our kingdoms. I am creating a network of kings, a royal allegiance. I am building my kingdom. I want you to build your kingdom alongside me and the 100 other kings that I'm working with. Together, we will rise to the top. We will become the new billionaires in the world. We will be the new leaders in the world, and we will lead humanity to a better and safer way into a better and safer world. If you understand what I'm saying, if you understand what I'm talking about, if you want to be part of this movement, if you want to work with me personally, go to royalinstinct.com and reach out to me. For everybody else, that is it for today. Thank you very much and have a great day.